Good morning. Hey, Lars.
Hey, Jim.
Hey, well, how about we kick this daily briefing off? Happy Friday. And by the way, thrilled to have you here. So Lars, founder and CEO of SalesSource, former VP of Global Sales at Cloudera. Really appreciate you kicking off today.
It's Friday and I'm pretty fired up right now. I've got 2 cups of coffee and I'm ready to go.
Tell me about it. So, hey, Lars, what's been the biggest surprise to you in this COVID era?
I think just how, I'm on a couple of different teams right now. I'm on my own team. I'm also on a team at True Ventures where I'm the revenue advisor, and just how easily we have connected and banded together. They're relatively small teams. My team is 6 or 7 people. The team at True is 25 people. So it's not hundreds, it's not thousands. But we have used Zoom, as I know everyone has, to our advantage and our benefit. And it's not just business, it's social, it's personal. And that has been a huge help. I'm an extremely social guy. And I need connection, whether it's in person or online or with voice. And I think we've gotten used to it. It's what we're 2 months, a little more than 2 months in. And I think, a lot of people talk about the new normal, but in fact, this is the new normal and it's going to be this for a while. So let's embrace it. And let's try to stay up. Let's keep each other up.
Have you found a creative way to recharge, the way we did in the hallways and in the kitchens?
So I'm lucky. I live on an island in the San Francisco Bay. I live in Alameda.
Nice.
I also happen to have a boat. So I spend a lot of time outdoors, on the walking path out in front of my home. And actually I spend a lot of time out on the water. I know I'm one of the extreme lucky ones, but I've learned how to be alone, and I've gotten more and more comfortable with it. But I find that getting outside is hugely important for me. I need to be outside as much as I am inside. So that helps.
I love it. Well, your picture is very relevant from the water standpoint. Lars, I was hoping to get your perspective today as we look at the weekly data around cold calls. Dials down 48%, connect rates holding steady. You've had a remarkable, past and innovation on the outbound. Tell me about what you're seeing out there. What's working right now?
Well, interestingly, just yesterday I was on another webinar with the folks over at Zant, and one of the stats that came up was that email interaction and connects and replies and opens are down way more than calls are.
Yep.
So right now, what's trending is the phone is working much better than email. And that wasn't the case before this. So the phone is as relevant as it's ever been, if not more so. And so I think that, the tone has shifted. There are people out there a lot of people talking about empathy. But if you go back about a week, I urge you to listen to one of John Barrow's installments on his podcast, where he talks about fake empathy. And I think that has become a very quick problem that has come out. Like, don't ask me about my family because you don't even know them. And now we're 2 months in and I hear that every day.
Yeah.
So I think empathy is something that you have to have, but it's got to be authentic. And you just can't rattle off, hey, hope your family's doing well. Can I get 10 minutes of your time to talk about whatever without knowing much more? So I think you've got to be careful.
I think that's the interesting part. When COVID kicked in, everyone had to change messaging dramatically. Now, the messaging we were using 6 weeks ago would come off tone deaf. It would be unreal. The empathy of 6 weeks ago is not what we need today. We need a new authentic and a new normal for this week and for next week. Are you finding that people are just evolving this messaging in real time?
There's no doubt about it. And we're doing it together, and we're doing it by kind of giving it away. And again, right, these Zoom calls, these webinars, these podcasts are where a lot of us are consuming what is going on. And what I love is the in the seat SDR, the in the seat ISR, the whole world just became an inside sales team 2 months ago. So, right, even if you were a belly to belly enterprise class sales rep that got on planes, and you're not that anymore. So everyone has to evolve. And it's certainly the tone, the energy, and I've learned a lot through, taking from others. And I would love it if more younger in their career salespeople were to go online and talk about, and we're seeing this a little bit out there. If for those of you that know Morgan Ingram, I mean, he started that movement for me years ago, just pointing the camera and giving people away things that he was learning as an individual contributor sales rep. And I think the world, I would love to see more of that from the younger set, right? Don't be afraid to build brand around yourself and around your role and around your company and around your product. It's all tied together.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about on the outbound side when it comes to emails. You mentioned that your data from yesterday was the open rates was significantly down. And we've seen a 51% increase in emails being sent out to compensate for the decrease in dials. What's the message that's resonating today? How do you coach people on an effective outbound message and specifically for now?
Yeah, well, again, you don't know if the person you're sending your outbound sequence or cadence to likes phone or email or a social touch, or now more and more we're seeing direct mail being sent to homes and offices. So you have to do them all. And one of the things that we do at SalesSource, the revenue advisory firm that I'm a part of, is we go into companies and we help them set up their outbound sequences. Mm-hmm. And that is, right, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I was at Cloudera, those were 3 to 5 email touch points over a week and a half. Completely different today. Now we're finding that these touch patterns are most effective over 3 to sometimes 4 weeks. They include 8 email touch points, 6 voicemail or left message touch points, 3 or 4 social touches, LinkedIn bumps, maybe a Twitter like, and then 1 and sometimes 2 direct mail pieces sent. You wrap all that up, that's going to drip out over a 3 to 4 week period, and it's going to be 25 touch points by the end of it. And the science is telling us that the odds of people replying or opening the first 5 to 10 touch points, it's not going to happen. So you do have to stay in there. You have to, and that's the beauty of sales engagement, all right? It's orchestrating all of this.
Do you think that multi-touch, which we all know, I've seen this across my career as well, but in the last 6 weeks, we've seen medium volume hold steady, yet volume of outbound has been down. So the quality has been up, the precision of who we target's up, the authenticity of the message. Do you think we're getting these higher connects because we're more authentic right now? It doesn't take as much noise?
Well, I think people have woken up to the fact that if we're going to reach out to someone, we better have done our own homework and realized that company that we're reaching out to has to, in our heart of hearts, have a problem that we truly believe we can solve with our product, our solution. Then the next step is, if we believe that company, because of their vertical, because of their the pains that we think they might have because of the complexity of their operation, then it's the persona, right? There's got to be 3, 5, and in some companies, it's more than 10 people that will get involved in the sale at some point. So are we targeting them? Not a bunch of other people that may or may not care, right? We're taking the net and we're not spreading it out over an entire ocean. We're deciding that we're going after the school that we see over there, and that's 3 to 5 people. And so that when we reach out to them, we can do so with a lot more context, and we can personalize, not necessarily to them and the school they went to, but the problem that we believe they are struggling with every day. And if we can teach them something new, if we can inspire them to want to raise their hand and say, you know what, that was a compelling use case that I just listened to or watched on with a lookalike company that's in my space. I'm not doing that. I want to learn something new. Yes, I'm raising my hand. Reach out to me. I want to learn more. And that's the trick.
Lars, you're talking about ROI right now. The importance of, I think you said, extreme value. What are you seeing out there?
Well, what I do know is that CFOs who manage, the purse strings of the company, most deals, whether it's over or above a certain amount today, are getting scrutinized by a lot more people, and certainly by the CFO. And so if you're trying to sell something and you can't prove extreme value, and I'm talking about 10x ROI, if not 20x ROI, which means that if I can't prove that you're going to not only recoup the cost of the solution, but do that by 10 or 20x, then it's not worth it for me to make the change. And whether that's ripping and replacing old technology for new, or taking where they weren't using technology and they were doing it manually, if you don't have an ROI calculator that you can bring into the qualification discussion and run it with their data in their environment to prove to them and have them go, holy shit, man, I can. Now they get inspired, and they want to get in front of that CFO and say, look, this is what's going to happen if we do this.
I think it's an awesome reminder that every deal is going in front of the CFO. They are the ultimate judge in the biggest way possible, and they ultimately are signing off on these today more than ever.
Yeah, well, ROI calculators are something that I've had in my career because I've always operated in enterprise class, high 5 to 6 figure deals, 6 to 9 to 12 month sales cycles. The last 20 years, certainly the last 10, in the B2B SaaS ecosystem of, technology providers, right? Yeah. They are providing mass value, but at this, you can get a license for 1 subscriber, 10 subscribers, and the ARR is $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And that a lot of other people can approve. But I think now, I think every single purchase is being scrutinized by more than just the person that needs it. And that the salesperson has to be aware to.
I think it's right. On the ROI calculator, there's the simplistic calculators that we've seen. They get built on websites sometimes. And then there's the deep enterprise, business value assessments. From your background, are you seeing people going deeper into the true business value, highly customized ROI based upon their specific needs? Or are we just in a transactional, lightweight ROI calculator era right now?
Well, it's both. I mean, we're engaged with quite a few enterprise class, longer, complex sales, where you need a sales engineer, you need a solutions architect, and you're talking to a lot of individual contributors who will be affected by this technology change. There's change management. There's a lot of moving parts, and those sales cycles do take a lot longer, and probably even longer now. And I think this really cool sales and MarTech. In fact, you guys are in a space that is exploding right now, in my opinion. And I think conversational intelligence has gone from a cool, wow, maybe I'll check that out, to now, I believe it's a must-have because of the coaching and the mentoring and the development aspect of what a young up-and-comer or even a tenured sales rep to understand, are they hitting the mark? Do they have colleagues on their team that are doing it better or worse than they are? Everyone wants to benchmark themselves, and they want to do it because they want to get better. And I think that companies that have an ARR of anywhere from 5 to 25,000 have a real opportunity, because those are easier decisions to make. Instead of one person, maybe they have to get in front of 3 people. But I still think you have to provide the ROI calculation, maybe not 20x, but if you can prove the enablement And if you can prove the onboarding and you can prove the quicker ramp onboarding and development factors, then I think you have a case.
I think so. Well, and specifically right now, just the being connected to remote teams has been the transformation. Everyone's a digital, data-driven sales team immediately right now, and having that. One area I wanted to get your perspective. We've seen a significant increase in sales leaders joining more of their sales team's calls. And where I wanted to ask you about was mentorship. A little bit different direction here, but the ability to work with senior folks that help guide careers. As you've done your own work on mentorship, and those of us later in our careers realize just how important mentors are. Tell me a little bit about your experience on the mentorship side.
Yeah, I get reached. So when I was, 35 years ago, when I was starting my career, I understood the value of having people that could guide me to, success, because they had been there before I did. And I also had people that took me under their wing. I like to say that they liked my energy, my self-startedness. And when I had some success, I realized they wanted to tie some of, that to me, but I was never afraid to ask for help. And that's part of my upbringing, and that's part of my peer group. Those that know me know that I'm not afraid to ask anyone for anything. And I think that's a big part of it. So if you're early in your career and we all learn from the school of hard knocks, we all learn from failure. But if you can take 5 out of the 10 failures out from in front of you by aligning with someone that you can spend a little bit of time with and say, hey, what can you teach me? Or you have a bunch of questions and you can kind of leapfrog, then do it. And so I think you have to have the courage. At the same time, frontline leadership, I think those are the heroes in the sales profession, not the second or third line or the top line leaders, but the frontline leaders. Mm-hmm. And, coaching and mentorship are different. I think coaching, you're asking a lot more questions, whereas in mentorship, you're kind of telling, guiding, proselytizing. And I think that frontline sales managers need to coach, mm-hmm. And I think they need to lead from the front. Get on the phone and show your team what really good looks like. And hopefully you know what that is, because you've had 2, 5, 10 years of having done it, and you know what really good looks like. The most impressive thing for me is when a frontline sales manager can get on a call and show their team. And I think the more you record these things, you can start to build. We had something called the Hall of Fame in our sequence touchpoints at Cloudera. And it became this cool kind of cultural thing where every SDR wanted to have their sequence put in the Hall of Fame, whether that was because it had the most opens or it had the most replies. And we had them for things like Hall of Fame for the most opens based on subject line.
Nice.
Here are the top 3 Hall of Fame sequences that had the most opens due to the first line, right, of the hook. Here are, in the breakup email that we all talk about, here are the most opens, replies. And so we had a Hall of Fame that became known even to our executives. They started hearing about this, and then they started listening and reading the things that were coming out of my SDR team. And they were like, holy smokes, there's this whole, we didn't even understand that the activities. And, at the end of the month, I could show our executive team that, collectively, my 65 SDRs globally were having thousands of conversations, tens of thousands of emails, and they were blown away. Now, that was 5, 6, 7 years ago. Yep. I didn't have access to Chorus back then. If I had access to Chorus back then, oh my God. I mean, let's go, Jim.
Let's do it. I love it. I love the energy. I wanted to ask you a little bit more on this mentorship. When you mentioned this earlier this morning, it did strike a nerve because it is so powerful. People that are listening that don't have mentors, a mentor can just fast track a career. They can save, as you mentioned, the pain of failure. I've seen remarkable things happen from just those that are more experienced than me, that have just guided me and helped me. How do you, reaching out to a mentor, you got to be vulnerable, and there's a way to do this. What do you think is the right way to engage somebody?
Well, first, I think there's two types of mentors, and I advocate for both. One is the one that you seek out in your own company. And it's not your manager, because that's what their job is. It's someone else. And I advocate for someone that's been there longer than you have, that's maybe higher up. It doesn't have to be in the same department, but it's someone that you've spent 6 to 9 months. Like, I would not, as an SDR, come in and within 2 weeks decide I want that person to be my mentor. Take 6 to 9 months and understand and go into their backgrounds, and maybe even, have some informational interviews with them, and decide that this is the person you want. And then authentically write them a note and ask them boldly that this is, I would love to have you as my mentor. Here are the reasons why. And what I will do is I will invite you to a virtual coffee once every 2 months for 30 minutes. And I will have an agenda. Make it easy for them to say yes.
Love it. Love it.
And then let them know why. Make them feel good, right? You inspired me with this note that you sent out 3.5 months ago. And when I read this story about you, from your LinkedIn profile, it just, make them feel good. There's a reason why you picked them.
I love it. I love it.
Then the other mentor is the one that's external. And I think this is just as important, and if not more. And the external mentor is the career and life mentor. And that is the person that, and it could be someone in your family or in your network, and they typically already have had a career, right? They're at the dusk of their career, and they're more willing to give you, but they're going to be with you through career decisions and company choices. And you're going to be able to go to them and say, hey, listen, Lars, I've been at Chorus for 2.5 years, and I've been super inspired. I learned a ton, but I'm getting outreach from all these recruiters and other companies. And, I've been told, by people that it's good to every once in a while lift your head up and look at what's out there and see if and you want that person to run those scenarios by.
I agree.
And so,
especially if they've been in the role, especially if they've been in the role that you ultimately want. There's nothing better than knowing what you want and identifying with those people that have done the role and can tell you how they got there, what they've learned. And I think, to your point, the ability to make it easy for people, to demonstrate that you're going to put in more effort than you're requiring of them. And two, that you can prove that you'll be an understudy, that you're someone that they're inspired by themselves and wanting to help be aligned with. But it's magical when people do it. So I just hope that everybody today listening is like, let me find a mentor over the course of the right time.
Well, and I'll leave the listeners with this one nugget that's super important, because I would say that I've mentored hundreds over the years. And right now I probably have, 30 to 40 young individuals, whether they're in high school, college, or they've just started, that I am actively mentoring. And there's only 2, maybe 3 that do what I consider best practice. And they do it because I told them I wanted to do it. Yeah. I told all 30 of them to do it, but only 2 actually do it. And that's what is a differentiator for me, and why I will be aligned to these 2 for the rest of my life. And this is what they do. At least once a quarter, they will reach out to me with an email and say, hey, Lars, it's been 2.5 months. It's been 6 months since we last spoke. When we last spoke, these were the things that I pulled. These were the nuggets and the learnings that I pulled from you. And I actually had some success with it. And I just want to let you know. And we're coming up on a touch point that I want to have with you in the next month. So you're going to see an invite that comes from me. But here are the 3 things I want to ask you about. Fantastic. It's like a beautifully crafted outbound SDR sequence. Like, they've got me. And I am literally blown away that they listened and they tuned in and they focused and they followed through. Let me say that one more time into the camera for those of you who are listening. Follow through. If you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, shame on you. if you do it again, if you say you're going to do it again and you don't do it, shame on me for hiring you, right? Because follow through is the one thing, other than fear, that I've seen lots of young people, right? It's easy to tell your mom you're going to study and then you don't. Yeah. Or I have 2 kids and they tell me they're going to do things all the time and I'll forgive them every time because they're my kids. But in the professional world, in a professional setting, follow through is everything. And that's what these 2 out of 30 have done with me consistently. I would hire them all day long and I would promote them because I already know they're going to be A players. They're going to be superstars.
Yeah, they're doing it.
They have focus.
I think it's fantastic feedback. And I think it's a great reminder. I mean, if people are going to take the time to help you, follow through. Lars, happy Friday. Really appreciate you sharing these insights. I look forward to seeing you around and back in the action when we're all back out there.
Right on, Jim.
All right, cheers. See you around.